What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Disc Golf Nerd Plastic Podcast. I wanted to do another episode here giving you guys some beginner tips and advice. It's one of my main focus here on YouTube, and I just wanted to be able to do a little bit more of it. I have a couple of concepts that I wanted to talk about today. It's stuff that I probably have talked about in other videos, other podcasts, whatever. But I'm going to put another 5 tips out there for you guys in this video, and hopefully it will help you out. We will talk about some personal stuff with me after the tips, just kind of to catch up with you guys as well, like I like to do. So, first tip: throw smooth. Danny Lindahl, I believe his name is. You might have seen his videos. He's been blowing up. I'm really impressed and kind of blown away by some of the view counts he's getting on these videos. He's doing a great job helping people break down the issues with their form and more of the technical, athletic side of disc golf, which is awesome that somebody's out there doing that. Because it's not something you're going to get from me. I don't know the ins and outs of that stuff. I'm always working on my form. Another reason why I don't throw in my reviews is that my form is always changing and stuff, and I'm out there field testing. I'm also working on my form and all that kind of stuff. So it just I just don't find it like I just don't think it'd be useful to see me throwing the discs. A lot of people will disagree, but Danny's doing a great job. One of the things that he does to sign off on his videos is he says, "Remember, uh, slow is smooth and smooth is far," reminding people to slow down and concentrate on having a smooth, fluid motion with your throw, less muscling and more having the correct form and going smoothly from transitions and releasing that disc on a nice smooth line and letting it do the work and stand up and fly. A lot of people feel like they have to muscle it. They really tense up and try to just throw it as hard as they can, and a lot of times you get really terrible results for that. Or if you see somebody who's really good at throwing, like Will Schustrick, like Paul Macbeth, Simon Lizotte, these guys that just have Barry Schultz, great example, ultra smooth, Cale Leviska, super smooth, Philo Brathwaite, Jeremy Colling, like they look like they're not doing much, and the disc is standing up, it's pulling out of their hands at a great speed and traveling far, far down the fairway, and it's because they're putting that smooth energy, clean release, and they're doing everything right and very smooth and fluid coming through the throw. So it looks like they're not putting a lot of effort into it, and they aren't putting a lot of effort into it. They're not trying to tense up and really rip it based on muscle. It's more about releasing on that smooth line and having your form do the work and having the disc do the work. So that's the first tip. The other one, basically along the same lines, is don't try too hard. People just feel like they have to put so much effort into the throw, and I have to throw it far, so I need to muscle up and I need to really try to rip it. And that's not going to yield good results most of the time. Trying to throw hard for me, if I want to throw farther, a lot of times I need to try to like slow myself down a little bit and actually try not to throw too hard, because if I really try to rip it, a lot of times I'll throw a grounder or an accidental turnover or something like that. It just doesn't work out very well. Where I get much more distance by throwing smooth and maybe just trying to speed up a little bit more than normal. Sometimes for me, if I'm trying to get a little bit more power on a throw, rather than try to throw harder and involving more muscle, I will just make sure I release and all that stuff, but I will concentrate more on the acceleration and the hit point. I'll go through my routine right at that last second. I'll accelerate and try to snap it out of my hand. That's the main way I try to add distance on a really long shot, and it works a lot better to do that and still try to maintain a lot of smooth form rather than tensing up and really trying to rip it with a lot of muscle and power. Start with slower discs. This is something that I've been preaching forever here on the channel, and I hope that I've helped out a lot of folks with this concept. I've had a bunch of people come to me for sure and tell me that they did not follow this advice and they started with a really fast disc and had a hard time with it. I've heard that plenty of times, so hopefully I've inspired some people to avoid that pitfall and start with something slow. Start with a putter or a mid-range. They're your best beginner discs, are all putters and mid-ranges as far as I'm concerned, at least for your first few rounds. Depending on how fast you pick stuff up, some people will be like, hey, I started with a T-Bird and I was throwing at 300 in a couple weeks. All right, great. That's awesome. Some people can do stuff naturally. That's great. I'm happy for you. The average person is not going to have the same result. The average person is going to throw a T-bird or a destroyer or something like that and have it go too far left and not be able to throw it straight enough. That's even more understable drivers. I started out with a Valkyrie. It was too much disc for me. It's a speed 9, and it's a fast, sharp, aerodynamic disc, and it's not like a frisbee, and it's not like what I was used to. So starting with a putter or mid range is definitely the way to go. Especially if you have experience with ultimate discs or freestyle discs and you know how to throw those. Something like a Wombat or a Meteor or a Comet or maybe like a DD Evidence or something like that. Something slow and understable mid range, straight flying mid ranges are great options, but most of the time I recommend putters. I think putters are your best learning tool. They're going to show you what you're doing with your form and your release angle, and it's a great way to get started in the right direction and the right way is to start with a putter and learn the basics of throwing that. Soft magnets, jawbreaker magnets, any of those like understable straight flying putters, the Axiom Proxy, basic AVR, or like a Dart, or just a million other straight flying putters out there on the market are your best bet to start out. So start with slower discs, work your way up. That's no surprise that I recommend that. I've recommended that lots of times, but I wanted to put that into this video for what it's worth. Just throwing out some new tips, some more tips for you guys, and just talking golf. So hopefully somebody will find this who haven't seen that recommendation before. Build a putting routine and stick with it. This is something that I've been really working on over the last year, and I've seen very beneficial results from it. I'm more or less trying to kind of rip off Paul McBeth with the way I line up and the way I focus. I hold the disc out in a very similar manner. And I stopped short of doing the little foot dig that he does where he kind of digs his foot into the ground. But I do make sure that I have that point kind of on the back end secure. I make sure that that foot is secure. I believe that's why he does a little dig, is to make sure that it's dug in and has a good firm contact with the ground. I kind of do that, but not quite in the same manner as he does. I just make sure that that foot is nicely positioned. I also don't really start forward and then come back and then go forward again. I more or less have my weight kind of loaded backwards a little bit, and then I bring the disc down, and then I just come forward and push, make sure my back leg lifts up, and I reach out towards the basket. But the actual technique of putting is not what I'm trying to convey here. What I'm trying to convey is I set up in the same way, and I have a very similar approach and routine to my putt, which allows me to get into that focus, and it makes me feel the same way I felt all the other times. And I feel that confidence that I know I can hit this, and I know I have everything in place to do what I know I can do, which is put it in the basket. So building that putting routine and sticking with it is a really nice thing to do, and it really helps. You won't see a lot of players out there that just set up in some random way and putt and are successful. Most players have at least some type of routine they settle into. They do the same thing over and over again, and it helps you lock into that mental frame of putting it in the basket. Because the physical attribute, the physical aspect of throwing that disc in the basket from 20 feet away is not difficult. What is difficult is doing it over and over and over again in the same way, with the same release and the same aim and all that kind of stuff. So having that routine at the beginning of the whole operation is super beneficial. You lock in, you feel that energy, you reach down, and it comes out clean, and you have everything set up at the foundation, so you know where you're at, and you have that mental, that kind of mental focus to hit that putt like you know you can. But it helps to start the same way and have that same feeling right before it every time. So that is definitely something that I've noticed in my own life, that not just lining up there and then just trying to putt it in, but having a consistent routine that I go back to time and time again has really helped my consistency. The more consistent you are inside the circle and the more putts you're able to hit will vastly improve your score very quickly, obviously. And if you want to compete at any type of high level, you need to be hitting a lot of those putts inside the circle. So putting routine, huge. Definitely recommend that. Whichever one works for you. I don't care what it is. If you got to do 5 jumping jacks and then turn around, look completely backwards away from the basket, and at the last second turn around and throw your putt. If that works, I don't care. But do it every time and have that consistency is fine. But obviously, a much more simple way, similar to what I do or what most players do, hold the disc out in front of you in some way, visualize and set up your body in the same way over and over again will help you with that consistency. It'll be super beneficial. Man, I talked about that plenty, huh? Rambling. Let's move on to the last one I have here is warm up and stretch. Do not see nearly enough players do this, even seemingly high level players getting out to the course, throwing big shots. I don't see them doing a lot of warm up and stretch. It's something that I've always been good about with athletics. I got into soccer and hiking and stuff in my teenage years, my late teens, really. And from there, I still am a big guy. I'm overweight. I'm heavy set dude, and I needed to make sure I was stretched and warmed up to be able to do this stuff, and I wanted to do it the right way without hurting myself. And I was already a little bit older, so I was a little bit more intelligent about the way I started trying to learn soccer and stuff like that, and it translates to disc golf. I try to make sure that I get really stretched and loose before I start throwing drives. It's really bad to show up to the course and just start ripping shots. You might be okay doing it now as a young person, but once you get a little older and stuff, it's going to be a lot more important that you make sure you're loose. One really bad yank of a drive or something like that can really mess up your back, or your knees or your shoulder or whatever if you're not ready for it, if you're not stretched and warm and ready to go. So I recommend laying on your back, crossing. I lay on my back, right, and I'll take my right leg. I'll kind of put my arms flat out, kind of like snow angel position almost, and then I'll take my right leg. I will cross it over, and I will to the left side of my body. And I'll allow that to stretch my hips and my lower back muscles. I'll do the same thing with my other leg. I'll take my left leg over across my other side of my body, stretch the lower back and the hip on the other side, and that sort of thing. Sometimes I'll tuck both of my legs up and roll from side to side like that so that I can make sure I'm stretching my core a little bit. Then I will also stretch my hamstrings and do some shoulder stretches by pulling down on your arm like you're doing a tricep workout, having your elbow pointed up towards the sky and pull down on that helps stretch out. And then I'll just start swiveling my hips and getting those warmed up and loose and ready to go. But all that stuff, I make sure I do that even if I'm just going to go out and throw a few shots and to test a disc or whatever. I force myself to at least do 5+ minutes of stretching every time. If I'm going to start a round at some place like Milo MacGyver or somewhere where I know I'm throwing long shots, I'm going to stretch that much longer and make sure I'm that much warmer before I start trying to tackle those big 500+ foot shots that are out there where you're trying to throw full power on these shots. And then a lot of times for me, I don't have a big arm throwing full power off the tee. I'm going on a par 4 or par 5. I'm trying to throw full power again. At least at least one more time, depending on the length of the hole. So yeah, it's really important that you do all that kind of stuff. It also helps to try to stretch a little bit after your round. It's not something I'm good at. It's still not part of my routine, but it's something I try to be cognizant of to maybe stretch my hamstrings a little bit more, or do a little bit more back stretching after the round before I get in the car and kind of tense up and drive home. That sort of stuff is definitely helpful. It's also really important if you're going to do like a tournament where you're playing 2 rounds. You really got to get loose and warmed up and stretched before you start throwing those drives, or else you could tire out that much sooner, or God forbid you actually hurt yourself and twist your knee badly or hurt your back trying to throw without being warmed up. That's like my worst nightmare. So I'm gonna get out there one day and really injure myself and not be able to throw, and that would really suck. That would really be awful. And I'm sure it's going to happen eventually where I'm going to have some type of injury that I'm going to have to take some time off from throwing. I dread it, and I really want to try to prevent that. So stretching and being warmed up is important, and it's difficult because sometimes you're there with a couple of guys and they don't care and they just want to throw, and then you're holding everybody up because you're stretching and stuff. But you gotta stay true to yourself. You gotta take care of yourself and be like, look, I'm sorry guys, I gotta get loose. Like I'm not just gonna start bombing drives because you're antsy. If you want to go throw a few holes and come back. Throw the first 3 and come back to 1 here for me and wait for me that way. That's fine. But other than that, I got to do what I got to do. I got to get loose. So those are the tips I wanted to impart this particular episode. What else is cracking? So I still have a bunch of stuff in the testing queue. Let's see. I've got Discraft Machete, Lava Evidence. I got Innova Wombat 3, Innova Manta. I haven't even started testing that yet. Legacy Phenom. I have the Disc King Lex. I'll be reviewing that relatively soon. Triple X review will be coming out soon. Frostline Latitude Triple X. Damn, I got a whole bunch of other stuff still. I'm drawing blanks on some of it. I got another Prodigy review coming up. Hopefully more of that coming up soon as well. And yeah, just a whole bunch of other plastic I'm testing and kind of doing my thing, trying to keep the ball rolling here. Hopefully you guys have seen my Disc Golf Nerd Dimax video that I put out recently, showing you guys the ability to order a custom Disc Golf Nerd Dimax disc. If you guys are having any interest in that, let me know. I can tell you how to do it. Basically, it's really simple. Just order the custom Dimax option on Dynamic Disc's website for either whatever disc you want or the mini, and tell them you want the Disc Golf Nerd Dimax stamp on there. They have it still held on their computer where they process those things, so you can just tell them you want it. You don't have to send them the image, and they can put it on there. I hope to provide more of that kind of stuff for you guys going forward. I'm actually going to post another video about that today, so stay tuned for that if you're interested in any other Disc Golf Nerd stuff. I don't know if anybody is. Well, I guess we'll see. I don't know. I think it'll be fun. I really want to have some of it, and I want to be able to give it away to some people and have my friends and family throw them and stuff, so that'll be really cool. So we'll see what happens with that, but I have one-of-a-kind Disc Golf Nerd Dimax right now. You can check out my video on it if you want to see it. It's a trespass. You may have also seen it on my Facebook or my Instagram. Go check me out on Facebook or Instagram. I'm really enjoying Instagram these days. It's quite fun. I was very late to the party, but it's a lot of fun to interact with folks and see what plastic people are picking up and courses they're playing and all that kind of good stuff, and try to keep you guys up to date with what I'm doing on there as well. And it's been a lot of fun. So go check me out on Instagram, Disc Golf Nerd 1. Search for Disc Golf Nerd on Facebook. The Facebook messaging is also a really great way to get in touch with me for whatever reason. If you have a disc you might want me to check out, or a suggestion, any of that kind of stuff, just let me know. I'm hoping to do another question and answer episode of the Plastic Podcast, so if you guys have any questions for me, you can leave them in the comments down below. I'm also going to post a new video asking for new questions coming up soon. I might even do a giveaway as an incentive to get people to leave me some questions. Maybe I'll get some more questions to use if I put some plastic on the line. So hopefully you guys like that idea. That could happen relatively soon. Much love and appreciation to all you guys out there continuing to support my channel. Big shout out to all the people that sponsor reviews for me. I really appreciate their support, and I truly appreciate all the support of all my viewers out there. You guys are great. Just a really warm and supportive group of folks, and I appreciate all of it. So thanks very much for listening. I'll check you guys later. All right, cheers.